The first sense is the key to non-reaction. Reaction happens at the level of the five senses. The five senses perceive a condition, and thinking operating at the same level follows. Reaction is the five senses pulling thinking towards secondary reality. And at the level of the five senses, that pull is natural because the five senses and conditions are at the same level. The pull is horizontal. The first sense lifts thinking to a different level, a level from which conditions are perceived but not compelling, because the first sense perceives primary reality, and primary reality governs secondary reality. This is the 7-minute daily focus, day 217 of 365, to focus on the world within from the world without. Today's focus, the law of non-reaction, the first sense and non-reaction. Pause for a moment. The first sense is the key to non-reaction. Reaction happens at the level of the five senses. The five senses perceive a condition, and thinking operating at the same level follows. Reaction is the five senses pulling thinking towards secondary reality. And at the level of the five senses, that pull is natural because the five senses and conditions are at the same level. The pull is horizontal. The first sense lifts thinking to a different level, a level from which conditions are perceived but not compelling, because the first sense perceives primary reality, and primary reality governs secondary reality. And from the position that governs, conditions do not pull in the same way. Pause. The first sense and non-reaction work together precisely. When a condition appears, the thinker with the first sense active perceives the condition through the five senses, and simultaneously perceives the seed through the first sense. Both perceptions are present. The condition is seen, the seed is known, and the first sense, perceiving what is more real, what is primary, what governs, provides an alternative to following the condition, an alternative that is more compelling than the condition, because what is primary is always more compelling than what is secondary when both are perceived clearly. Non-reaction is therefore not the suppression of the five senses' perception. It is the presence of the first sense's perception alongside it. The condition is seen and the seed is known, and the seed, being primary, is where thinking remains. Thought is within, effect is without. Thinking stands between. Pause for a moment. This is why the morning practice is so important to non-reaction. The morning practice establishes the first sense as the active instrument. It opens the perception of what is within before the perception of what is without. It ensures that when conditions are encountered through the day, the first sense is already active, already perceiving, already providing the alternative. The thinker who has established the first sense in the morning practice encounters conditions from a different position than the thinker who has not. For the thinker who has not established the first sense, conditions are encountered from the level of the five senses alone, and at that level, reaction is natural. For the thinker who has established the first sense, conditions are encountered with the seed already known, already perceived, already more real than the condition, and from that position, non-reaction is natural. Open the first sense first, every morning, before conditions, before the five senses have set the agenda. This is the practice of non-reaction, before a single condition has appeared. Pause. The first sense enables non-reaction in the most direct way, because non-reaction is the choice of the inner over the outer, and the first sense is the faculty of the inner. The five senses report conditions. They generate what there is to react to. Their reports are immediate, clear, and compelling, and they are constant. the five senses do not rest. They continuously offer the surface as the object of attention. The first sense reports the seed, what is within, what is developing, what is real, what is not yet expressed but is already fully present within. Its reports are subtler, less immediate in the undeveloped thinker, less compelling to the unexercised first sense. Non-reaction is the choice to follow the first sense. When the five senses are speaking, to orient toward the inner report, when the outer report is loudest. This requires that the first sense be developed, that its perception be accessible, that the thinker can choose it, not as an act of resistance to the five senses, but as a trained orientation toward within. The thinker who develops their first sense perception makes non-reaction easier, not because conditions become less compelling, because the inner alternative becomes equally compelling. The seed becomes as vivid, as real, as present as the surface condition, and from that balance, non-reaction is a natural choice, not an effort, the natural direction of a thinker who has developed within. Now, the affirmation for day 217. Pause for a moment. I perceive what is physically seen. I do not react to it. I acknowledge what appears. I do not follow it. Conditions present themselves. I remain upon the seed. The appearance is secondary. The seed is primary. I operate from the primary. I do not allow what is secondary to interrupt what is developing within the primary. I hold, I sustain, I remain, and what is held and sustained must unfold, and what unfolds must physically express, remember, by design, by focus.